My name is Kayla Bream, and this is my topic for the ISM paper. My topic was how does teacher diversity affect student performance? And I chose this topic because we've had so many discussions about implicit bias and microaggressions and just equity for our students as far as curriculum. And so I wondered how the demographic of the teaching staff affected students who were not of the same gender or race or ethnicity. And so this started because, kind of reflecting on my own classroom, our school is majority white students, but we do have other students from different backgrounds. We have ESL students, we have Black, Hispanic, Asian. And so my thought was, in looking into this paper, how can I improve my own teaching? My opening question was, does teacher diversity really matter? And looking at my own school, our teacher population is 100% white. And like I said before, our student population is much more diverse. And so just thinking about my students and how, and we've had this conversation before as a staff, how it's hard for those students to be able to relate to an adult in our building because there is no one that looks like them. And so while we do have 3 African American ladies on our staff, they are not classroom teachers. And so they're not people that our kids are consistently able to see and go to talk to. And then also, we only have 4 male staff members in our school. And so that's also something I looked into, was doesn't matter the gender of the teacher. And so also kind of looking just at the bigger picture, in the US, 80% of the teaching population is white, while the student population is actually now minority and majority. So white students are the minority in schools across the US. And so looking just at Jefferson County and thinking about the big push for equity, having an equity plan for your school, our teachers are 84% white. And the same trend, our student population is minority majority at this point. So looking at data, just looking at how many teachers of color there are, in the past few, I want to say 4 or 5 years, the percent has gone down from 26% to 18%. And so that was something I looked into, why is that happening? Why are there not more teachers of color in the classroom? And just throughout my research, it's been proven that students have a more difficult time finding success in the classroom when they don't have an adult role model who is a demographic match to them. How this affects students. First, I looked at having a same race teacher. And so there are consistent achievement gaps between students of color and white students. I think that's pretty well-known fact. It's something that has been a consistent fact for the past forever, really. And if you look at research, that trend really has not changed very much in the past 60 or 70 years. And so thinking about why that is and why that gap is not getting smaller, and in some cases it's getting bigger. And so one study that I looked into, it looked at assigning students to teachers of the same race and how that affected them. And so one study found that assigning a Black male to a Black teacher in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade significantly reduced the probability that he would drop out of high school, particularly among lower income, economically disadvantaged students. And exposure to at least one Black teacher in grades 3 to 5 also increased the likelihood that persistently low income students of both sexes, male and female, would aspire to attend a 4-year college. And there's also research that Black teachers have higher expectations for Black students. And I think that comes back to just those implicit biases that we have that have been ingrained in us through our culture. Looking at same gender, female students often are found to outperform their male counterparts in reading. This is particularly true in middle and high school, and then vice versa in the areas of science and math. And there is research that says teachers have higher expectations for girls in reading and higher expectations for boys in math. And so looking at that research in middle and high school, particularly elementary school, there was not much research to support needing a same gender teacher, but it was a huge difference in middle and high school. And so it showed that when students were assigned to a same gender teacher, the achievement of both girls and boys improved, as well as the teacher perceptions of their students' performance and how they would do. And not only that, but the students were more engaged when they had a teacher of the same gender. So looking at attendance and suspension, when there was an increase in the amount of Black teachers in this specific district that they did this research in, it led to fewer severe disciplinary actions and more tracking of students into gifted programs and higher achievement of those students. And research also consistently shows that Black students receive suspensions, particularly out-of-school suspension, at higher rates than their white peers. And that's also true of Jefferson County. In my paper, I go into a little bit more detail, just the numbers and statistics. And last year, out of 25,000 suspensions, I want to say 18,000 of them, around 18,000 were African American students, and 15,000 of those were African American males. The research also shows that Black students also frequently receive longer suspensions for the same type of infraction than their white peers, and disproportionately receive classroom referrals for suspension. So thinking about those biases, they're getting harsher consequences for doing the same thing as their white peers. This is a pretty complex issue, and it really comes down to our biases that we have and that we've talked about. And so, of course, one way to fix the problem would be to increase the interest in teaching, to have more teachers of color, more teachers who represent the students that are sitting in our classrooms. So Hispanic teachers, Black teachers, Asian teachers, right now, and teachers who are men. The majority of teachers are white females. And so that would be the obvious way to fix the problem. But probably the simplest start would be just to make teachers aware of their biases and stereotypes, which is kind of what's happening through this class. And so I think having more teacher prep programs that have classes like this where you're making future teachers aware of just the stereotypes they hold and the biases they have that they're not aware of can help them to kind of form their teaching practice into something that's more culturally responsive. And so that's another way, teachers who are already in the classroom, just providing them with professional development on culturally responsive teaching and ways to relate to their students that don't look like them, who aren't the same race or ethnicity or gender. And so in doing that, they would hold higher expectations for their students. They would be more aware of the ways that they perceive students as they come into their classroom. And so while I think this will take a while, and a lot of effort from school districts across the nation, I know that JCPS is really trying to take a step toward that with their racial equity plan and having the conferences that we're going to and things like that. So I hope you learned a little bit, and hope that this information will be something that you can take back to your own classroom and your own school.